So my house, in case you folks forgot, my house is a nightmare and then some. Not just one nightmare, it's a nightmare plus. It's a plus sized nightmare. And um, what I'm trying to do in my house is find a place for 3 people. I'm not asking for 30, I'm asking for 3 people to sit down comfortably and talk about pens. And the only place that that's possible really is right here at this table. And this is a test. So this is going to represent one of my guests, and this will represent another one of my guests, and this will represent me. You can tell which one is me because of my gray skin. Teresa just joined. So let me do one thing here, if I can figure out how to do this. Uh, the the pens that are here on my desk right now are those that my friend Cesar, a pen user and I guess collector from California, has selected, and these are in order of which ones he liked best. I also have a pile of pens over here that off the camera, that away, that show that are, there are 5 or 6 pens that he selected out of this tray, and the ones out of this tray were pens that were in my regular sale area. And I thought that maybe he can take a peek at some of these. Maybe he might like them. I won't have the trauma of saying goodbye to them like I do most of the pens I own. The people want to buy are the ones from my collection. And uh, they um, are not for sale. So these pens here, I guess you can't see them. See, this is the thing that's going to be scary about this is I have to very carefully delineate where the boundaries of our field of vision is, because I don't want to have one person's hand be off screen, especially if we're talking about the pen in their hand. So we're all going to be sort of leaning over, trying not to bump the camera. And where are these going to go now? They can go in this. Good. Okay, so we're partly there. This is going to go away. Depends. Of course, I don't have a flat place to put them. Are they going to go on the floor? They're on the floor. I was thinking almost of setting up in our gallery for this thing we're doing on Wednesday, but the gallery is very echoey, and I don't think that would work very well. I've done it before, and it's worked to a degree, but it's very echoey. So let's pretend that this person and this person is Cesar from California. Hello, nice to meet you, Cesar. He's over here, but he's not in view. He's here. I'll be here. Actually, I think I'm going to be over here because the person here and here actually have a chair that's functional. You can put the legs under the table, whereas the person over here has to sit side saddle. My dining room table is built for one guest. When there's 3 people here, the third person has to be side saddle. The desk is actually a mission style, or the table I use is a mission style desk. And it's quite lovely, but it only holds 2 people. It could hold a third person if they had no legs, with ease and comfort. But 3 people with 6 legs, one person has to be side saddle. This thing is being held up right now, but by the grace of God, let me show you what it looks like. I know I could probably go on Amazon and find something like this for $29.95, add to shopping cart. In fact, I see them, but the products that you get that hold one of these things, an iPad, usually there's something really screwed up about them. The clamp that holds the iPad is made of shitty plastic, which cracks and breaks, or the weight of the iPad is, they didn't do the math right, and it falls over, or the clamp. There's one whose clamp was really strong, really strong spring that would clamp to a table. But that clamp was, the spring was stronger than the plastic things you press down. So I was pressing it down to open up to go on a table width that big, and the snap broke. So anyway, what I did here for this thing, I'll right now I can't read what anyone is commenting. I will stand up and look down and do that, but here's what this thing looks like. So this is what is it? It's a microphone stand. So let's say this was here. There's a little thing here that can go up, and then you would attach a microphone above the drummer. Here's Ringo, and here's his drums. And this is big enough and heavy enough down here to have this big cantilevered thing over there with the microphone. And the cymbals are here, and he's drumming away. So I don't have this on it, but instead, because the iPad is heavier than this thing, microphone, so I have this gooseneck thing here, and I think this was actually part of an iPad holder of some sort, but the part that connected to the desk broke, but this is still strong, and there's a little thing here that the iPad is on, and this is hose clamped to that thing. Also here is a light lamp. So what's the problem do you see here? Well, the lamp is over the iPad and casting a big shadow. So I have the lamp pushed over this way, but you still get the shadow here, and I don't want that. I want to have the light coming from this direction or something. Or maybe I'll just have different lights coming from the side because I don't want a big shadow over everything. So I could also have this person be mindful of where their hand is. And of course, if anyone bumps this contraption, their toe hits this, everything will come cascading down. And the damage will be, who knows how many survivors would happen. So it's going to be a clusterfuck of trauma. But I think what's going to be fun, and this is what I'm hoping will work, is we're going to have 3 people all writing and testing out pens and talking about the pens we have in kind of a fun way. And it'll be like wine tasting. So maybe I'd give, each of us would take these 3 pens, whatever they are, and I'll write with this and think, and someone will write with that and think, and someone will write with this and think, and then we'll trade them. We'll do this kind of a thing. And then we'll write with the same pens. So we'll scribble for a few minutes with each of these pens, and then I'm going to lay them down. I'm going to say, well, what are our thoughts about these pens? Not about, well, it could be about the weight of the pen and the length of the pen in your hand and how the balance worked one way. And, or it might be about the nib and why 2 of us really love this pen and that person really doesn't like it. I think it would be an interesting idea. What are your thoughts, people? You like this idea, or you just want us to talk about other things? Todd Merrill, you'll know, he's quite often a guest here, and he's a swashbuckling script writer. Penmanship is very swashbuckling. Cesar's handwriting I haven't quite figured out yet. I don't know whether he's quite figured it out yet. I think fountain pens are kind of new for him, and he likes to draw. He likes to drive the pen around without necessarily having a purpose for it. He just fills it up with ink and drives it around. So this is what he did yesterday, trying out some pens. Here's what I did. And I just did this to see what they were like, and then I handed them to him, and he played around with it a little bit more. This is me, and this is him. And I don't think there's a word anywhere. He didn't write a single word. It's there's one pen collecting guy who only writes his name. That's all he writes. John C. Corwin, John C. Corwin, John C. Corwin. And if I sell him a pen to John C. Corwin, I'll say, you know, it's so sad that that pen of yours, the pen you just bought from me, will never ever write a lowercase e. And he said, what the hell are you talking about? And I said, the only thing you write is your name, and your name does not have a lowercase e in it. And he giggled. Maybe his middle initial has a E in it somewhere. But other people, usually people, write words. They're testing out the pen. They'll write their name. They'll write Dear John. They'll write the dog jumps over the fox or whatever. But I'm a scribbler like this guy, Cesar, but this guy, Todd Merrill, always seems to write a word and then do a flourish underneath it. It's fun to see. So this guy, Cesar, yesterday, he was trying out a lot of my Franken pens with Victorian tip nibs. And I was fearful that once he tried a couple more dip nibs, he wouldn't want to have anything to do with fountain pens anymore. And but I kept on telling him, I said, you can't use, when he was, this was the dip pen page, when he was making lines like this that just sort of trailed all over the page, I said, promise me, don't ever draw with a Franken pen. Use it for standardized writing where you're more mindful of the up and downness of the thing you're doing, the motion of your hand and the pen. Drawings, when you're drawing, at least for me, I can sort of get enthusiastic about the shadow that I'm drawing, or the branches of the tree, or whatever it is I'm drawing, and I might push a little harder than I should, or I might be drawing on paper that's a little bit more textural, like watercolor paper, than a plate finish piece of actual, lovely paper like Rhodia or whatever. And those little tiny, fine, delicate tines could hit a snag and break a pen. And I don't want that to happen. So when I sell a Victorian dip nib to someone, I make sure they put their hand on a Bible and promise never to draw with it. Let's see what anyone has said here. Just a minute. Do I have a kitchen table? No, I don't. Coffee table? No, I don't. There's Manfred from Good Idea. The problem with the shadows, though. Okay, very good. So we'll go back down here again. Now the shadows, I do have. There could be a way where I can have the light that's casting this shadow right here. I could hook it up so it's level, the light source is level with the iPad. Probably. And again, the interesting thing is, what I'll do is I'll have a large piece of cardboard here on the table, and I'll draw an outline in bright red magic marker or something, the field of view of this thing. So we all know that we have to have our hand and our pens and the papers we're using inside of that thing, for one. I'm going to have to figure out a way to sit side saddle, but maybe I'll have a stool. Because I also will have to stand up and read what the comments are, and I have to read them sideways. Unless I could also watch the program on a third or a second iPad, and I can read the comments there. Maybe that's what I'll do, because that way I don't have to accidentally bump into this, because again, if I bump into this, something awful might happen. A kitchen table would be nice, but I don't have one. And I have drawing tables and I have other tables, but they're filled with stuff, or they're slanted, or there's something about them that won't work. I had a friend that lived in my building who was wanting to have a going away party before he was going to go to California to grad school in writing. So he said, I want to have a party. Well, how many people do you want to invite? And he said 30. I said, okay, I can do that. God. those were the days when I actually did have room for 30 people. And what I did was, it was really, I thought, a lovely party. What pen am I going to draw with? This one, I guess. And I borrowed 4 regular 6-foot tables, you know, the kind that you normally see at banquets. And I created a cruciform shape like this in my studio. My studio is about 20 by 20 feet. So this was able to fit there back then. I didn't have that many drawing desks and that kind of stuff. So this was the people sat around here, around the outside, like that. And then each place setting had a desk pen, with a desk pen, fountain pen, and a, you know, fork, knife, spoon, desk pen. Everyone needed that. And in the middle, where no one could sit, I had a huge pile of typewriters. And they were just sort of piled on top of each other. Actually, I'm lying to you. There were 4. There were 5. One was standing on a pedestal. But each of these 4 had the paper coming out, a big long piece of paper coming out from the typewriter and going underneath, and was a runner along each table. So this was, you know, there's a tablecloth, but then there was a piece of paper that went from the typewriter up and under the typewriter and down to the end of the table. And then the one in the middle had a piece of paper going to the ceiling, and somehow I attached it to the ceiling, and it said, "Good luck, James," or whatever, "See you later," or "Au revoir," or whatever it was. So there were 30 people here at that. I can't even get 30 people in my house standing up, sucking in their chest, trying to be as skinny as they possibly could. I can't get maybe 10 people in here. So the fact that there can be 3 hands at this table, but the rest of their body, they got to leave that outside. So anyway, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just have, I mean, I could do a couple of things. Maybe you can think about it and add a comment to this thing. We could each have a Parker 51 in our hands. They don't have to be the identical 51, but we can all have 51s in our hand, writing with it and talking about the brand. What is it about 51s we like? What's so cool about them? Put those down, and then take a Waterman 52, you know, a pen that everyone knows and loves, and we can talk about that. We could do a Wahl all metal pen. That's a big favorite of Mr. Merrill's. And then we could maybe try another pen or 2. That could be one way of coming up with an interesting conversation where we're all sort of talking about apples before we then talk about oranges. But we could probably have that discussion without actually showing the pen or writing with it, because we're talking about a generic brand. But I think the idea that where each of us are trying the same pen, we try 3 pens, switch pens, write, switch pens, write. So all of us know what this pen felt like. Todd, what do you think? Cesar, what do you think? What do I think? Next pen, what do we think about this one? I think that might be more interesting. It's more subjective, but that's what I'm all about. I'm about subjectivity. I'm not ever about facts. So, and what did Manfred say? Just a minute, let me see. What about stationing a floor lamp to the rear side of each person? confluence of light. I think it would make everything dark rather than make everything. Uh, do I ever try to quill pen for drawings? I have to leave now driving house town traffic. Okay, Manfred, have I used quill? I recently did. I think I probably have a couple of times in my life. I recently did I was creating props for a movie or a TV series that is coming out in the fall. I guess it's the fall now, coming out maybe in the winter or spring, where part of the movie takes place in 1780-ish time frame, and part of it is a diary written with a quill pen. I mean, I used a fountain pen to do most of it, just because it's faster. But there were pages I had to sort of halfway do, and then the actress would write in, dip the quill in an ink, and then write, dip the quill in ink and write, dip the quill in ink and write. You have the quill will hold about 4 or 5 strokes of ink before you have to keep dipping it. And I'm too lazy and impatient to deal with that. And the quill loses its point, and you have to then get your knife and cut it again or get a different quill. So there's a lot of work that gets in the way of finishing a drawing when you use a quill. There are also reed pens, which essentially are like a quill. You take a reed and you trim it and make a point and then cut a slit in to hold ink. It's kind of fun. Anyway, I think this will work. I'm just wondering if, I mean, I like this lighting, actually. It's generally good. It's just that this person, whoever this is, has to be mindful that they cause a shadow. And if I'm over here, I could keep reminding whoever's sitting here, whether it's Todd or Cesar, that, keep their hands closer. I can bring this down a bit. Yeah, the shadows, it's not really changing too much. The shadows that go that way aren't important. I don't care about them because they're not, the writing will be in the middle. So if this hand raises up, it won't block the middle. If this raises up, it blocks the middle. So it's really this person, wherever this is. And maybe this is where I'll sit. Maybe I'll make Cesar sit side saddle. Todd can be there, or Todd can sit side saddle, because here I can actually easily read the commentary. And I can also easily maybe move this slightly if it gets out of the way, whereas if I see that it's not right, I'll have to climb on top of Cesar or Todd or whoever's here. So anyway, that's our plan. Now another thing is there are some pens that Cesar bought from me yesterday, or wants to buy from me. He hasn't actually given me the moolah yet. We could play with those pens. And Todd has some pens for that he bought that Cesar bought from Todd as well. So we could all just talk about those pens. But I think it might be fun to include something like a Parker 51 and maybe a Waterman Taper-Rite pen. That was one of the pens that, these are two of the pens that Cesar had put aside as things that he wanted to revisit. And they're both these pens. So maybe, what is the difference between these two pens? They both look alike, they both write kind of alike, but one of them is going to be really different than the other one. And maybe my splitting hairs and Todd splitting hairs and Cesar splitting hairs about just these two pens might be interesting. What's really neat, I think, about 2 or 3 pen people getting together at the same time and talking is each person, each individual brings something to the table that I think is really quite important to convey. There are 99 out of 100 pen experts can tell you everything you want to know about this pen. And they'll agree on it. It's a Schaefer pen from blah, 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 made during blah, blah, blah. It was called ebonized pearl, blah, 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 or radite, ebonized radite. And it was made between these years. They might even add a factoid like it was originally, it was $3.50. Now on eBay, they go from blah and blah, or whatever. And everyone would agree on that. But then when you you let 3 experts on pens write with it, you're going to get different opinions. Well, 75% of pen experts probably don't even write with their pens. So why am I asking them about how it writes? I'll ask people that actually use pens. And I'll say one thing, Todd will say another thing, and Cesar will say a third thing. It would be interesting, though, if we could each say something about this pen in confidence and in secret, and then we play the tapes and find out if we agree or not. That's another fun game to have. For those of you that know me, pens in my world, pens are essentially tools to draw with or do calligraphy with. Yes, they're beautiful. I can sit here and look at the little sparkles until I start to drool, and it's easy to do. It's easy to just look at this pen and say how beautiful it is, but that's kind of two-dimensional. But you put it on the page and you make a line with it and you say, oh my God, I can't wait to do the next drawing I do of how they split the atom, because this nib is fine enough to do a drawing like that. And my mind is already thinking about what I can do with this pen. This pen in my hand and the line it makes, I might get, oh my God, I can't wait till I do a drawing of a storm at sea with big crashing waves and lightning and thunder and some Wagnerian scene could be illustrated with this pen. Now, a pen collector looking at this pen will say it's a Waterman basket weave, or no, whatever kind of overlay this is. That's the other kind, the other popular kind, the Paramecium one, the Paisley one. And they're going to say, oh, the overlay is a little bit uncentered. The cap has been file down, the cap is supposed to be a little bit taller, and it got damaged or dented or tooth marked or something, and someone cut the top off and added this. The clip is a nickel clip, not a sterling clip, and they'll point out all the problems of this pen. Why did you buy that pen, Beer Gustafson? Why didn't you buy one from me that's in perfect shape for 6 times the amount I paid for this one? And I'll say, well, this one had this great nib. I can push it around. That's what's fun about this kind of nib. I can make a drawing of a storm at sea. Yes, and I can sit there and I can turn this around and start drooling at the beautiful sterling overlay and the pattern, and I forget that the cap is short, and I forget that the nickel clip is on there instead of a sterling clip. Those things, are important, I guess, to know, but to me, I don't care. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the three of us in our little circle jerk do with these pens. I think we'll have fun. I think the three of us have enough overlap where the important part is using the pen. We all come from that point of view. It's not about, I think really for all of us, it's not about collecting every single version of the Waterman 452 that there was. I think it's more about collecting really fun pens to draw with or to do calligraphy with. I think that's what's really quite fun. And I completely forgot to find out whether Todd Merrill had said that Todd Merrill said that my captions were turned off yesterday, but that they weren't, because someone did text me during my little video I did. So I think there was some snafu in the world, whether it was something wrong with me or with StreamYard or with YouTube or with Todd's computer or my setup I had, I don't know. But hopefully I said, if you're watching it this morning and you see a problem, send me a text in Facebook Messenger but he hasn't sent that, so I don't know whether he is even up out of bed yet. So this three-way that I'm talking about doing, it might happen Wednesday at about 3:30. I think by then both of these people will be here, and I'll have enough time to describe what we're going to do to them, and then I can turn on the camera. But we'll only have about an hour to do this, and maybe it'll just be a half hour. I don't know. We also might postpone it until Thursday morning at some point, but that is unclear. When you're dealing with one person, it's hard enough for one person to make it. It's hard enough for me to figure out what I want to do. But when I'm dealing with Todd, Todd will be staying here with me on Wednesday night. So at least I know that he'll be here. Cesar might want to sleep later. Actually, what they're planning to do on Wednesday, Cesar and Mary, they're planning to go to the medical museum at Mass General Hospital to see that display. And I said, take your time. If you arrive a little bit late, that's fine. But I think Cesar will be here at 3:00. And then Mary and their daughter will arrive at 4:44. And I said, why do you say, well, that's easy for me to remember. They'll arrive here at 4:44. And then we'll have a little tour of my art in my building. And then we're going to go to trivia to play trivia. So that's our plan for Wednesday night. Today, I'm going to the museum, the Gardner Museum, with them, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to bring my iPad and do maybe a dozen drawings of the interior of that museum, and also look at the art. But I'm going to be making art, I hope, instead, or in addition to looking at some of the art, and see what they say about that. So anyway, let's write in your comments what you might like the 3 hands to write with and draw with, and what you would like the 3 people connected to each of these hands to talk about. And I'll run it through my little brain and run it through their brains, and we might maybe we'll just talk about 3 pens, just only 3, and wax poetic just about those. And we can swap them back and forth and just see how exciting that is. But I haven't figured it out yet. But at least this works. I'm glad that this test that I made just now, the tape is holding the iPad level. The iPad is not too heavy to make this thing work. It's nice having a different place to look at pens and talk about pens. So I'd wanted to set this up, and I have actually done things here. I did have a talk with Ralph Reyes here, and I have done it with a few other people. So I knew it worked, but it's the 3-way, the third person that's going to have to be side saddle. And I think, Todd, that's going to be you. You're going to be here. And I think it'll be fine. You can be side saddle, or you can splay your legs wide apart. I've had many dinners here where I've been the third, and I was able to, in fact, conduct the food from the plate to my mouth without trouble. So if I can get food in my mouth, I can also have a pen in my hand and write beautifully with that. And I'll also fix the lighting so that it's not blinding to the person who's sitting over there. Now, the person that's sitting there is going to be a little bit more tortured than the people that are over here on either side. But it's what has to be done. I like this nib. So does Cesar. Cesar said, I like this nib. Can you put this in a different pen? And I said, yeah, I can put this in a different pen. I said, now, it should be able to fit in this pen right here. No, it won't, though. It won't fit in this pen. What pen did it fit in? It's a late model Waterman. It should be of this era. What other pens did they make when they were making these? Todd Merrill, the expert. In our discussion tomorrow or Wednesday, Todd Merrill will be the one that has the more of the facts in his memory. I'm not good with that. I used to know more about it than I did when I actually cared about wanting to collect all the versions of a particular pen. Once I either collected all of the versions of that particular pen, I forgot all about them. There's one pen, for example, the Waterman 52, that has all sorts of strange numbering systems for what kind of gold bands it had, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. This is something that Todd Merrill would know. But, and whether they were solid gold bands or gold fill bands, or whether it was one band or two bands, but maybe I'm remembering incorrectly. I know they must, in the catalog, they had different distinctions for them, but whether they were part of the numbering system, I don't know. I really like this pen, even with its flaws. Its many flaws. A big dent right there, the overlay a little bit crooked, the wrong clip, and the shortened cap. I don't care. It's really neat. It feels really heavy. I like the fact I can push it around. It likes to be told what to do. You know, sometimes you want that in a pen or a person. I'm tired of your feedback. You're going to just listen, young man. You do as I tell you. Don't be slow. I just spit. I don't know if you caught that going this way. A little bit of spittle left on my lower lip when I was drooling looking at this pen. I'm trying to imagine Homer Simpson drooling like he sometimes does. Oh, donuts. That's what I do when I see some pens. Sometimes it's a pen like this. Sometimes it's a Parker Vacuumatic. I just get lost in the striated stripes of a Vacuumatic. And I can just sit here and do this all day long. And the drawing that I started with it will never get finished. The storm that I was drawing subsided, and now it's sunny weather. The Hindenburg that I was drawing exploding has, in fact, all the pieces has been shipped back to Nazi Germany to be turned into guns. Because I'm sitting here twirling this pen around. Mr. Gustafson, you've been standing here at Lakehurst for 3 weeks already. In the rain, no less. Is there anything else I have to say? No, I'm done. Let's see what else Manfred had to say. Sorry for yesterday I saw an offer of Swan 1500. I don't really know what does that mean. You cannot get these pens. I don't know what a Swan 1500 means either. I never bothered to learn the Swan system. Here's a Swan. Does not have a number on the back. This is a pen that Cesar wanted, but there's right there's a crack. Has a really nice flexible nib, and the reason it has a nice flexible nib is there's a crack in it. The nib. Ugh. Fill the pen up here if you're going to use it. Fill it up. Here's the pen nib. Here's the breather slit. Here's the breather hole. And right from here to about there's a crack, which means when you press down, this tine will go maybe that far out, and this one will go maybe that far out. So it won't be even. You'll wonder why is this pen acting so funny? And you press down again, you're wondering what the hell's wrong with this pen, and this little crack will go all the way to there, and this little thing, it's like a wing falling off an airplane. Bye. And the plane will spiral down, or topsy-turvy down, or whatever down. It'll go down. It won't continue flying without a wing. I know that much from watching aircraft disasters. A friend of mine in my building, artist friend, who was trying out pens, said, I really love this pen. I want to buy this one. And I looked at the pen and it had one of these cracks. And I said, I tell you what, you can use this pen for free. And when it breaks, keep the little piece of gold, because that little piece of gold is probably worth $10 as gold, or $5 anyway. And I'll give you another pen that has a crack in it. I've got lots of pens that have these kind of cracks in it. And she only used them to write place cards. She used to give, and still does give, I think, little tea parties at her house. And she'll write the first names of her guests on little tinted cards. And so that's all she uses the pen for, is just to make these cards. And it's lasted her for 6 years at least. It was well before COVID. And I think she does use them actually for writing letters as well. And she presses down really hard to get the shaded line. And the nib has not given up. It still is hanging in there. And this pen that Cesar wanted to buy, he still wanted the pen even though it had a crack. And I said, well, I don't want to sell it to you. I don't want to sell you a pen that has a broken nib. Let me find a nib that's good, and I'll put it in there. And so I'm not going to sell him that pen unless I put a nib that's good. I can't guarantee a pen will last, even if it has a perfectly good nib and everything is perfect about it. It's a 100-year-old thing, and it's been used for at least a dozen years, I think, or more. Sometimes you see pens sometimes that have never been used. They were given to someone as a bar mitzvah gift or a Christmas gift or a graduation gift. And oh, thanks, Aunt Mary. Thanks, Uncle John. Thanks, Dad. And they throw it in the drawer and they never use it. But there's other pens that you see that show so much wear, and you can see that they were used for years and years and years, probably every day, to do the books or write the letters to the editor or whatever it is. This pen was used a lot. So there's a lot of stress that has been added to that nib or that barrel or whatever. And at some point, something's got to give. Tina. So anyway, Manfred, I don't know what swan that is. I think if you type in Swan 1500 black hard rubber and maybe send me a picture of what it looks like, or the picture of the pen that you saw. I might know something about it. The thing is, swans were also made in England, and I don't know really anything about them. So, but I do know that the price of pens have, in the last year, pens like this on eBay, and they were perfectly good pens. They might have, hammer price might have been $250 to $300, $325 or something. But now you see them, buy it now $600, or you see the starting bid at $400. So the prices have gone up in these things in just the last year. I've noticed on eBay, and I also noticed at the pen shows I was unable to buy. Normally, I would buy pens like this, missing a clip, broken lever, whatever head, but they have a good nib, and I would buy the pens for the nibs. And sometimes if the pen functioned still, even if it missed its clip, I'd buy those. I didn't see them. People are keeping even pens that they think they'll never sell to anyone other than Pierre Gustafson, but they're saving them for the nibs. The nibs now, the scrap value of a number 2 Waterman nib is $50, 45, $50, just to melt them down. So buying a pen that has a gold nib for $50 and buying a pen that has a gold nib for $50 that actually works and is restored, those days are gone. So $150 for a Swan doesn't sound out of the ordinary. This pen, whatever this hard rubber one that I just showed you, that Swan, if it had a good nib, it's $150 at least. And if I look at it longer, it's really crispy. The black hard rubber is really nice. There's not a lot of wear on the pen. I might charge $200 for it. And that's more than I would have asked last year. But if I sell a pen like this, or any pen, take any pen, I'm going to say, if I want to buy one of these now to replace the one I just sold you 2 minutes ago, how much would I have to pay? I should start that the price that you're going to pay me for this pen is going to be at least what I have to pay for buying one on eBay. But I'm selling a pen that does work, tested it out. You see the flaws. I'm not buying something at an auction where I only look at pictures on the page. So anyway, bye. I have to do stuff. So everyone have fun. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Watch us on Wednesday at 3:30.